Listener, before you listen to this cast, you should realize one thing. After the fact of recording this cast, we found the tweets by Boots Riley, where he laid out that a lot of important contextual information about the film and the truth of the events it portrays was actually suspect, and also highlighted very well how it was actually part of a more insidious systemic attempt to realize a kind of normalization between the black community and the cops. We didn't know this at the time because we're tremendously white and didn't really have the perspective to comment effectively. So here's our initial thoughts as they happen. Please enjoy the show. It's BlackKklansman.
Oh. Okay, now I'm putting it down really gently because I'm glad that we also didn't get that as our cold open, because that would be very inappropriate given the scale of the conversation that we need to have. I'm walking around, I'm gesturing with my arms, I've been given a stage!
I'm not convinced that will get picked up enough.
Yeah, I'll be alright. Anyway, welcome back to Hurd Ya Saw! Today...
We are live from Screen 1 of Genesis Cinema.
Indeed, hot off the back of a lovely Q&A session with director Spike Lee, by satellite, not in person. And we just saw the movie BlackKklansman. Now, I won't lie to you, dear listener, I won't lie to you. There was a certain amount of when the credits were rolling, after what is, quite frankly, a gut punch of an ending, which you can see coming, be like, oh, they're going there. There was a certain amount of, okay, now we have to do a podcast about this. Are we the right people to do this podcast? And my resolution is, fuck it, these issues need to be talked about. We have a platform, however tiny, though hello to all our Dutch listeners, apparently. They love us, and our love of Japanese horror.
The answer to that is still no. We're not the right people to do this podcast, but we are the only ones in the room. So here we are.
Let me preface then by saying, we're not the right people, so go find the right people.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people talking about this.
Yeah, there's definitely people talking about this film.
I've seen one or two on Twitter.
Go find the reviews, go find the features written by people of color or people from that time period. Find those people and find those voices, because the podcast is not also the right platform to elevate those voices.
Yeah.
Because written text being tweet, go read this review on BlackKklansman.
If we were a more professional outfit, we'd have a list of better outlets to direct you to. But alas, we are a trash cast for trash people. So here we are.
So go do that, and then press pause, go do that, and then see if you're still interested in listening to what we have.
Or better yet, see the movie.
Well, duh.
See
the film.
Yeah, we say this on certain films that you really should just go and watch it, but I think this one perhaps higher than many others because of the politically charged nature and the timeliness of this film. It's really kind of important that you maybe go see it because it's a really good film and it'll also make you think, make you feel sad, make you feel unquenchable anger.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to peak. Well, so we begin as ever with a lovely, nice, civilized round of one-line hot takes. Sean, I haven't introduced who's on the cast. It's Sean, Shay, EJ, and myself today. We were going to have full team coverage, but then, in fact, enhanced team coverage with extra people, but then certain members of our party decided to run away from their responsibilities of delivering their thoughts to the people. So, Racy, I don't know what your reason was, but it seemed fine. Morton, Megan, and Gemma, I'm pointing at the phone. I'm disappointed. I wanted to hear your thoughts, but we'll talk later, I'm sure. So, Sean, your one-line hot take on BlackKklansman, please. You're far from the mic, so speak up.
Oh, God. I will say, I'm glad we had the Q&A afterwards so that I had time to sort of recover from that ending.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
Shay?
Best film of the year.
Ooh.
I'm calling it early.
Ooh. I mean, I would agree, but Sorry to Bother You hasn't come out in the UK yet, and I really want to see that film because it looks super interesting.
That film isn't going to come out in the UK.
What?
Yes,
Is it?
Is it getting a limited release, surely?
In the fall. Okay.
I've seen it on launch just today.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
don't
thank
worry.
goodness.
No one panic. It's coming.
There was trouble with that no UK distributors were.
I did see it
Fine.
today, but
I imagine
it was
off
in
the-
October, I think.
Based off the
It
gangbusters,
had a
coming out.
date.
Oh, right,
It
yeah.
had a date.
based off the gangbusters numbers that I hear BlackKklansman is doing, I feel like movies on this topic are going to get a bit more of a bump in terms of, oh yeah, maybe we should pick that up. There probably is an audience
Well, I think
for it.
because also that film has such huge cultural buzz.
Yeah.
But Boots Riley, the director, said
Yeah.
that a legitimate UK distributor said there's no audiences for black movies in the UK. it's such a troubling thing.
we're pretty lily white and we're out here. We'll
Yeah,
come see your
like,
black movie.
We were just in a sold-out screening of BlackKklansman. That was
Nearly
followed
600 people.
by a satellite Q&A in a cinema of a sold-out screening of BlackKklansman.
And
We've been
broadcasting-
calling around
yeah.
to every cinema in London. Every single cinema was sold out.
Yep, and that was 116 locations around the country that live
And
stream was
UK
going to.
distributors need to get their shit together because
We're calling you out,
Yeah,
listeners
like-
of the.
Dear White People, when that came out, didn't get picked up by
That-
a UK distributor.
Oh,
Like an individual bought the rights for that, and there was huge controversy between. Anyway,
Really?
Here's the thing.
Look into it.
If we cannot find a UK distributor of Sorry to Bother You, I guarantee you I will get someone in the United States to mail me a Blu-ray and we will fucking play it in the
Heck,
cinema.
But
Yes.
now it's clear that someone has picked
Yeah.
up the rights, so that's great.
If I'm wrong, that is the plan.
But it's on
excellent.
launching film, so
Yeah.
ECB.
Nice. EJ,
Yes.
your one-line hot take on BlackKklansman.
I agree, best film of the year. I'm very. I can't see how it could be topped. I just can't.
For my one-line hot take, I think it's. I actually said this in the screening. I retract all previous jokes I have made about Spike Lee for his directing NBA 2K16. Like, I feel bad for that because I felt like, maybe he's lost it. You know, he directed a video game and it was not. He did not adapt to the new medium well. He's still got it like 1,000%. This is an excellent, excellent film.
This is the
Why
thing.
were you doubting him over a video game?
Because I was like, oh, it was really bad.
This thing, even in this film, like in the Q&A, it was followed. He's like, Jordan Peele called me up, pitched me the film. He's a director for hire.
Yep.
Like he does his own stuff, but he's also a director and creator for hire.
Damn right.
He made the Old Boy remake, and
Oh God, he did. Oh,
it's not very. It's like probably
Oh,
his
Spike,
worst
I'm
film
sorry.
that he's made. But also
there was no. I mean, that was like a, you know, that's a Kobayashi Maru. There's no way to like win there because
No.
it's like you can remake one of the best Korean films.
But I don't want to like.
We're
The
not-
point is
yeah.
that like he hasn't lost it because he's always making films. He's made so many films.
86,
Like,
wasn't it? The lady quoted.
What? He's made 86 films?
That might be including like short films and documentaries.
That's insane either way.
His output
Yeah.
is tremendous.
Tremendous output. Of course, there's going to be a stinker or two, but mostly they're all politically charged. They're all
Yeah.
even like
Do the Right
Chirac-
Thing. That's a-
well, Do the Right Thing's a
Do the Right Thing's a
masterpiece.
great movie.
Chirac
That's the
that
only
came
other
out.
Spike Lee film I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
You
This is
get on that.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And watch more.
Yeah.
I've got a box set.
So does Genesis. We'll combine them.
We'll combine that.
We
It's
could do.
not all of them,
Oh
yeah.
man, event for the bar, Spike Lee Fest.
We're doing that in all of October though.
Oh, nice. Really?
Yeah, every Monday night is a Spike Lee film in the bar.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've spat
When
ice
is this
everywhere.
decided?
I'm so happy.
A few weeks ago, I don't know. Just on
Excellent.
the
All right,
calendar.
Genesis Cinema, Spike Lee films on
I'm almost
Mondays.
positive they're free.
Even better, free Spike Lee films. Come see them. Promotion.
Yeah, exclusive as well.
Indeed. EJ, so we spoke briefly before the Q&A started, and you said that contrary to your previous appearances on the podcast, you're not going to recount the full plot as we often do.
No, I'm gonna give you the IMDb synopsis, but I'm not gonna read it because it's probably dumb. So I'm gonna tell you what it is, but I'm not gonna give anything away other than just the pitch of a black man in the 70s, in the first black police officer in Colorado Springs, infiltrates the local chapter of the KKK and goes in undercover with an Adam Driver, white person, impersonating him while he contacted them via phone. I don't want to say anything other than that. There's
Cool.
a bunch. It's all true. There's a bunch of crazy shit that goes down that you can't even believe is real, and there's many not remotely thinly veiled.
Oh boy,
swipes
we'll get
at-
to that.
What?
Now, I just want to say, now, you've heard the pitch, you've heard our immediate reactions, you've heard at least two of our number, 50% of this podcast have said, film of the year. I feel like when we talk about this, we're going to have to get into some spoiler territory, so this is a warning, officially, there may be spoilers, I don't know what they're going to be. I'm drinking gin, I might get loose, so watch the film.
Can I say from
Yeah.
EJ's synopsis that not giving anything away is like great because it's one of the films I've seen like in a year's worth of cinema trips this year, like, where I haven't been like, I know the hero's gonna live. I know the hero's gonna survive. I know this. I know what's gonna happen, and there can be a bit of tension, but ultimately I know in the back of my head. In this, I have no idea what's about to happen,
Same.
and the way scene by scene it plays.
Yeah,
Like, and it's not like an unconventional film at all by me saying that, but just the way the story's told, and just it's
Does a lot of
magical.
good stuff with tension.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah, that's the thing, because it's based off a true story, which is one of the main selling points for me as well. And it's a thing, very easy, you could just go Google what happens and that.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of like, I didn't want to know, I wanted to be immersed in the full experience of that film. So.
Had anyone else not seen a trailer?
I had seen one trailer and I hadn't really paid that much attention to it because I was like, well, this sounds like a thing I want to see. So my brain was just like, don't need to recall many points of that. Also, I've been listening to a lot of Whiting Wong's, which on their adverts has been sponsored by BlackKklansman. So I've had an awful lot of the dialogue of it just being all like, gonna infiltrate the Ku Klux Klan. Right on, right on. Like just in my head a lot as I've been listening to the podcast. Also, Whiting Wong's is good. It should be listened to more as well. Plugs! So thoughts on this film. I will say I didn't expect it, as we alluded to when EJ finished their synopsis, I didn't expect it to be that direct in its, hey, look at where the fuck we are now.
Yeah.
Like, not even getting into the ending. I mean, mid-film, you may as well have had characters turn and look at the camera and go, are you picking up on, this familiar phrase that we've all been saying? Like, they had
We
once
should
where they...
literally say what. This isn't a spoiler.
No.
But someone says like they're aiming to the KKK are aiming to get their members in political office. They're aiming for the presidency, and the other character's like, oh, that'll never happen. And they say it multiple times. You're being naive. That is going to happen. And the whole audience is just like, fuck.
Yes.
And everyone's kind of laughing because they're not over there. It's funny here. It's still funny here, but it's not.
I was not laughing as much of the rest of the audience. I think one of the bits that really fascinated me was the sequence where they were talking about when the sergeant is talking about like the way that they try to normalize things in the popular consciousness of America by not talking about race but talking about immigration, not talking about black poor people, but talking about economics and using those as buzzwords and dog whistles. And I'm like, because I'm, surprise, surprise, listener, I watch a lot of left-wing, anti-fascist YouTube stuff, and I'm all like, this is what they do. Yeah. This is you can look back at the fucking Nazis, you can look at the Trump campaign, you can look at most dog whistly campaigns, and you can see the same kind of rhetoric. You can look at it with the Brexit vote. They say oh, it wasn't all about immigration. It was a lot about immigration, and the whole concept of having immigration as a key issue is that white people, sometimes we're not a fan of having colored folks around. And you're just like, what the... It's great to have a film that completely, nakedly, and openly says, no, look, this is what they're doing. And you have the position of a historical perspective of going, this guy, in the 1970s is saying, no, look, this is what we're doing. And we're like, holy shit, it fucking worked.
Yeah.
Fucking Agent Orange.
And it's not retrospective. It was always that way. That
Yeah.
was always the plan.
Yeah.
This isn't recent.
This is...
We're not looking back with 2020 vision.
We're in it.
Yeah.
Well, America is in it. We're in it a bit as well. I mean, look at the rise of our good friend Bojo. Lovely Boris.
You can still watch Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee, and that could come out today.
Yeah.
And you'd still be like, well, this is the most relevant film of it
Yeah.
right now.
And he said in the Q&A, they made a contemporary period film.
Yeah.
This could have been set now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Absolutely, because the problems of race and the Klan are still a thing.
And there was nobody in that film that was acting different, more aggressive or more free than they would now. There are still cops doing that crazy shit.
Yep.
There was nothing different. They didn't change anything except wardrobe and hair.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the thing, I wish I could look on this film as just like, oh yes, that was a terrible time in history. It doesn't happen now, but it's just like this is still happening, and it's ridiculous that it is.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse. You know, I mean, I think one of the key points that Spike Lee said in the Q&A is he made this to be a political piece of art. Someone asked, you know, they had the whole, but can you really separate politics from art? It's like, no, art is politics. Art is communication, and communication by definition has a political stance. And he even made the very apposite point, which I was thinking about. I was like, oh, I hope he says this. And then he said it. I was like, yeah. Even a attempt to make something completely apolitical is in itself a political action. The only reason why a lot of people, mostly straight white middle class men, cis, true, oh yeah, the cis, well, get your trans things out of my stuff. No, they feel that. Oh yeah,
Able-bodied.
yes. Oh,
Fucking hell.
neurotypical.
There you go.
There you go. We're getting all of them. The reason why these people often claim that art isn't about politics, or like, you know, oh, don't get politics out of my video games, or my cartoons, or my films, or my comic books, or whatever, is because they've had a position of privilege of, I'm fucking preaching. I know you guys know all this. Oh my God.
So does the listener.
I hope the listener knows this. If you don't know this, listener, because they have existed in a culture that treats them as the default, anything that is a deviation from the default of reinforcing a narrative of you are the default and you are fine, here is a narrative that appeals to you, to them seems like a, quote, political action because it deviates. Whereas it's not. Like, to someone who is not any of those long list of things that we just mentioned, something that deviates is literally fucking everything. So from that perspective, everything's political, because everything is political. And I like it that a film of this caliber, of this quality, and of this kind of reach is being so nakedly provocative. Like, I like that, you know, what was with the handshake thing?
So Donald Trump is known for having a very weird handshake.
He does like the grabby.
He does a grab thing, he does a fingers thing.
Ugh.
And they show the handshake in close up because there's a specific handshake that I think David Duke was doing.
Yeah,
right?
with David Duke, with the crazy guy.
Yeah, that
Felix.
there's like that's extremely similar to the one that Donald Trump uses, and Donald Trump's father was very good friends with David Duke.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. He was in the KKK. It's almost like we elected someone from the.
It's almost like Trump keeps a copy of Mein Kampf on his nightstand, and when asked about that, he didn't deny. He said, "How did you know about that?"
It is almost like
Crazy. What?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk more about the film. I want to say that the soundtrack and the sound mixing was super on point in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the moment that really kind of sold me, like both on the film as a whole, which I was already like, okay, I'm kind of in, but it really sold me on like the way that they designed the sound was in the scene where Ron and Patrice go to the nightclub, and the sound mixing in that sequence where they go dancing is utterly incredible. There's so much clever use of shifting between diegetic sound, non-diegetic sound, like ambient sound of people snapping and clapping and like singing along to the lyrics, but it's all keyed so it fades in and out of each other, so it creates this wonderful like sort of timescapey dream atmosphere of like moving from one thing to another, of like, you know, this is their experience of it, but this is also us observing it as a film audience. It was masterful sound work. Absolutely brilliant.
Another moment of, I don't know what this is called. I'm sure there's a name for it for anyone who's ever gone to film school, but maybe you know. When they overlaid the gunshots that were coming up in the next scene when they were shooting the targets.
A bridge.
Yeah.
It's like a sound bridge.
Yeah,
like for
they
the edit.
overlaid it like significantly with, I think the scene was with Ron and his girlfriend, I can't remember her name.
Is this when they went to the shooting range of the KKK?
Yeah.
No, the shots for that, which I thought was like, oh, okay, was in the wake of Flip and Ron talking about how Landers, the shitty cop, had killed a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're in the police station, they're all like, oh, it's just a bad cop.
Yeah.
Guns everywhere, and I'm just like, oh, I'm having fucking flashbacks to, like, this is America.
I wonder if the number of gunshots were significant to the number of kids or the number of people killed, maybe even during the film shooting.
Oh, man.
I'm not sure.
That's the kind of thing that I could totally believe.
There was enough of them that it was very, like, if it was me and I was mixing the sound, I would have done the number of black people killed by cops in the time that the film was being shot. But I don't know. I have no way of counting that, to be honest.
Beautifully shot as well. There were some really good stuff. Like I really enjoyed actual very good use of Dutch angles. In
Yeah.
one of the conversations between Ron and David Duke.
A lot of the phone conversations and the split
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
What did you point that out on a different podcast? What a Dutch angle was?
Thank God.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just used tons of like Dutch angles.
It made
in
me
it.
look
Yeah.
for it in this film.
Yeah.
Shout out to learning things. That's Sean.
Yay.
See, I'm helpful.
You're a very valuable member of the cast, Sean.
Yeah.
I've said about 5 words so far.
To be fair, I've been a bit on my soapbox. I've been striding around the stage, like being loud, because I have a lot more room to do so.
You should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, learn to project and just speak from the diaphragm, young Sean. Shay, what did you make of this movie?
Like I said, best film of the year. I have loads of things to say.
Give us some.
Just like little tiny things, like I really like the shot when they succeed in the spoilers.
I did the spoiler alarm. It's fine.
In the
Yeah,
investigation, and just like when he comes and he like celebrates with his team.
it's like a
And
tracking shot, right? It's following.
Yeah,
him
and they
around,
do like a double shot of like him hugging like his sergeant.
Yeah.
That like is normally reserved for like punches in like
like,
martial arts films. It just like show the power of like that camaraderie, and then suddenly it's like taken away from them straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved. I want to shout out to 13th, the documentary, Ava
Yes!
DuVernay, because
That documentary's really
that
good.
film discusses Birth of a Nation.
That
and
it
this
does.
film talks about Birth of a Nation and
Contextualizes it. a lot.
contextualizes it and goes, this is the birth of the KKK, or the rebirth of the KKK.
Yeah.
And Birth of a Nation gives like very apt analysis of that, and 13th gives apt analysis. And
Yeah.
shows how that ideology in that film has infiltrated into politics and the 13th Amendment in the
And discourse around film
Discourse
studies as
around
well.
film studies.
When was
Like-
that released?
That was released a couple of years ago on Netflix.
No,
Yeah.
no, the sorry, Birth of a Nation.
Oh, like 1913, 19, I don't know, like really early.
Very
Oh,
One of the-
early
one of the-
1900s, still in the early teens.
That's why it's like still archived, because people attribute it to like this is where film grammar came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, I had friends on the film course when I was at university who watched Birth of a Nation, and they were like, "Yeah, it's really fucking racist." Like that was their main takeaway, and
Yeah.
they were being told to look at all this birth of film language, and they're like, "Nah, but it's really fucking racist.
really racist.
You can't move
You know what?
past that."
There was like Napoleon got reissued finally, like one of the most complete cuts from Napoleon.
Yeah.
That has lots of like film grammar.
That
being
film's
invented.
amazing.
That film's amazing. Go watch that. There's like loads of old films that have film grammar. It's been repeated so much. We know what film grammar is. Like,
Following on from that, Spike Lee talked about Triumph of Will, which is, for those who don't know, is a Nazi propaganda film made by the Nazis in World War II. And, he talked about how George Lucas appropriated a lot of the imagery of Triumph of Will for the Empire and the Star Wars movies. I'm going to shout out Browse Held High did a really interesting video essay about Triumph of Will. And the thing is, no, actually, it might have been Folding Ideas. No, it's Folding Ideas.
About Lindsay Ellis.
No, I'll always talk about Lindsay Ellis if I can, because she's great. Notice this Lindsay senpai, she never will. But the thing of it is that Folding Ideas did a great video about it, where Dan Olson pointed out that it is a, you can talk about how Riefenstahl, she was all like, oh, they made me do it. Yeah, but the thing is, you made a movie in Nazi Germany for the Nazis about being Nazis. It is a really interesting film from that perspective, because it is a film that depicts fascists in the way that they want to be seen. And the thing they have is this like endless regimented sense of power, like people upon people upon people, and flags, and like, geometric lines, and everything's like super ordered, and it's like a vision into what they want to present to the world. And you have the very interesting question of like, yeah, that movie is important because it, again, develops an awful lot of like film language and like documentary and stuff like that. People point at Triumph of Will and be like, there had never been anything on this scale before done in this way with these resources. But the thing is, it is a film language that has been created for the purposes of furthering a fascist agenda. And as Spike Lee said, you have to contextualize that shit. You can't just be all like, oh, Birth of the Nation, like, invented, like, the crosscut. And, oh, my God, let's ignore the fact that there's a shitload of people in blackface. Sorry,
Do you need to see where the crosscut came from? Is it that important that you see the original one, or can you just watch a really good thing that followed on from that and use it and reference back?
I'm almost certain you could. I mean, I feel like outside. I mean, I'm not in the favor. You know, again, to quote on Spike Lee himself, he said, "I'm not in favor of banning things. Like, I do think that Birth of a Nation should be seen, but I think the thing that really needs to be addressed is the way that we approach these kind of problematic films in the context that they exist. It's like I'm a big fan of the way that Disney handled, sorry, Warner Brothers handled some of their early, like, propaganda cartoons that they made. And they say at the start, they have a nice contextualizing preamble by an actor, I forget the name, and like a big thing saying, this was made at a time during war when we were having to fight, blah, blah, blah. This is what it's meant to represent. We do not hold these views now. We don't think that, the Japanese are all demon people. But we feel that it's important for people to be able to learn from history to show these things as they were, like not editing them, not cutting them. Like he referenced Huckleberry Finn and stuff like that, and Catcher in the Rye.
Well, it's like, linking back
To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a
film,
Mockingbird, sorry, yeah.
Like, he talks about like the Robert E. Lee statue coming down, and
Yeah.
that's why riots were incited. And a lot of people's arguments were like, but it's our history. Yeah, put it in a goddamn museum,
Yeah.
and let people educate themselves about the atrocities that happened through that, and contextualize it properly. Don't put it out there. Like, don't put Birth of a Nation like out there like this.
On the sky.
Put it as like this is a historical document, not
Yeah.
the film everyone must see.
Well, and you want to know the fun thing about those Confederate statues? Vast majority of them
Yeah.
erected in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh shit, all these black people are starting to, have civil rights, and we feel threatened by that. Let's really double down on the super racist bits of our history, but still deny that it's about racism. Oh my God, Sean, thoughts on this film?
That one point that really sort of stuck out is the ending,
Yes.
because it has that for a bit that happy ending really, where it's like they complete an investigation, they like the arsehole, the racist cop gets arrested,
Yeah.
and they have that moment where there's basically the massive fuck you to David Duke.
Yeah, like high fives and hugs and like
Yeah.
literally fuck off David
Yeah.
Duke.
And
Also, from the podcast, just generally, fuck off David Duke.
Yeah.
If you're listening, fuck you.
Yeah.
Why would he listen to
He
this?
might be, who knows?
Yeah, so, so it's something, it has that sort of happy ending, and then it has that sort of, realistic sort of ending where it's just like, investigation sort of swept under the rug sort of thing. And then it has that sort of transition from, like he says in the Q&A, the transition from the 70s to the modern day with
The
the double
dolly shot.
dolly.
Yeah. Good shot.
And it's a thing of like, and he then shows the footage from Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And like, I'd never seen that full footage before.
I was going to
Oh,
ask, because
really?
I've seen that footage a couple of times,
Yeah.
because when it happened I watched it, and then I saw it as part of the Vice documentary about like infiltrating the alt-right group that did it. It's fucking horrifying.
It is, because it's that thing like for me, because around the whole time of Charlottesville, the news would only show so much because it's the news. They can't show too much sensitive material on that. So seeing that, especially on the big screen as well, and being in a packed screening as well,
Yeah.
where people literally within the space of 5 minutes went from laughing and cheering to dead silence.
Oh,
And
yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
that thing of, at the end of the film, it truly showed just how impactful and powerful this film is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The silence after the credits start to roll, like that was a heavy like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then the applause from a Baghdad screening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
should be said, like, it wasn't just Charlottesville. It was many.
No, of course.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the car was in the most dramatic part of a car running over people and killing people, but it was multiple cities in that time
Yeah, of
of
course.
just marching, Nazis marching,
Yeah.
And
the Klan marching.
and Antifa guys like fighting back.
Yeah, yeah. It
like-
it was riots and conflict. Just
In a country with a shitload
over
of
the place.
guns as well.
yeah, we got.
It's like
got a lot of guns.
Oh my God. So I mean, how are we doing for time? Because I can't even see. Oh, I've got messages. No. All right, we've done half an hour. That's all right. We've already got a good cast in the bag, everyone. That's good. Cinematography, really nice. Spike Lee has a very distinctive style. I feel, which I think really served this well because he really, like you said, embraced like the kind of feel of a more 70s blaxploitation film. I really love all of the like inserts when they're like talking about the films and stuff like that, or like,
Yeah,
you know,
he does that a lot, and it works.
it's
well.
really good, especially for this kind of film. And it gives you this sense of like you're meant to be aware of your extra textual knowledge of what you're watching. It creates it sort of, you know, pushes at the illusion of film a little bit because it's shot in a way that's not naturalistic. It's very sort of like bam, 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 like kind of like action-y kind of cuts, but sort of like informative action-y cuts. Like, you know, when he looks at the business card, it's not that you see what he sees like over the shoulder, like viewpoint of how he views the KKK business card that he gets. It's like he looks at it and then it's like bam, massive red thing with the Gothic typeface like filling the screen, being like, this is what you're paying attention to. You know, it's like really excellent work. And I'm just like, yeah. Okay. Does anyone have anything extra to say, or shall we move to final thoughts?
I want to say that I thought the subplot where Adam Driver's character is talking about how he was born Jewish but was never brought up Jewish was really, really good.
That was good, yes.
Because they kind of, they seemed like they almost downplayed his character initially, and they downplayed how important that would be to his journey.
Yeah.
And then he just has this like wonderful, quiet monologue about it.
Yeah. Adam Driver, like as usual, is an excellent,
like,
excellent
Jesus
performer.
Christ.
Like he's very good and like
And very handsome.
and
Yeah.
very handsome. You know,
Yeah.
he's like. But I agree. I think I was actually having a conversation with a coworker of mine, hey Lewis, who is Jewish, and we were talking about the conversation ventured onto like anti-Semitism and stuff like that, and sort of discussing the whole idea of Judaism as both a religion but also as a race. It's like in that kind of interesting because you have to be born into it, etc. And he said that one of the things he found difficult growing up was coming to the terms with the idea that like even though he's ostensibly a white guy, it's a really difficult thing to sort of be like, oh wait, some people will just have really horrific views about me, even though I look like them, I sound like them, on some unspoken level, they've already decided that I will never be equal, that I am less than them. And they talked about the concept of passing as well, which I was like, oh, this is a whole thing. Oh, this is a really interesting thing. You could make a whole movie about this. I find it fascinating because, the idea of racial identity when it's less immediately obvious. You know, there's again to reference Whiting Wongs, they've had a couple of people on there who can quote unquote pass for white, which changes your experience of being an other, of being a minority, when you cannot escape it through any way because, you know, it's literally your complexion or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a very different lived experience to someone who might not get those same looks on the train or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and Jewish people, I feel, have that occupy a lot of that space specifically because they can go with people expecting them to be one thing and then being like, well, actually, and then they can see a change in people.
Yeah. That's the same, or not the same, but similar for anyone in LGBT communities.
Absolutely.
Can you pass for straight? Can you pass for
Your assigned
gay?
gender.
Can you pass
yeah.
for your assigned gender or your chosen, like the gender that you feel is more accurate?
Yeah. There's a lot in this movie.
Is that the right phrase?
Gender you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. This film has a very like direct message, but also has lots of nuanced discussions within the film.
Yes.
Like that, what we're just talking about passing, and also about cops.
Yeah.
And it
Oh
has
yeah,
like
we haven't even.
Oh
gone
yeah,
into
that's
cops.
a whole bit.
But that's like
Yeah.
a very nuanced discussion that the film is also having internally with itself all the time.
Yeah.
Like it has a very direct message, but also has lots of nuanced things to say.
Yeah.
It is not just a simple, this thing is bad. It's like, yes, this thing is bad, and this is everything within it. These are the nuances. It's not.
This thing is big and complicated.
This thing is big and complicated, and this film nails like just talking about having.
Speaking of like not to say unsubtle, but like direct messaging. Just to throw out a small recommendation that people might not actually be able to see anymore because it might have finished its run. But I was at the Globe for a press night for the play Amelia, which was in a similar way very directly and emphatically talking about things that are happening now, despite being a period piece. Because it follows the story of Amelia, who is it's a piece of new writing, who is meant to be the subject of some of Shakespeare's sonnets, who was a woman of color who was a writer at the time when Shakespeare was alive. And its main message is how it sort of poses the question of how many documents, how many pieces of writing, how many experiences have been lost to time because patriarchy and the white experience have colored and controlled history for so long, and focusing on like the anger of people who have been victims of that and are still victims of that today. It was a very, very angry piece, but it like resonated with people so much. It got like 3 curtain calls, full standing ovation. Everyone was just going absolutely mad for it by the end. It was brilliant stuff, and I feel like this tapped into a similar kind of thing of speaking directly not only to people who are affected by these issues, but to people who are fully outside these issues. Like, I felt a lot of rage, like a lot of it, and I think it's, we always talk about how it's important that films are able to articulate emotion to people. And I think this definitely achieved that. I think it's definitely one of the most emotive films I've seen this year for certain. Like, hit me really, really hard. Made me want to hit people with sticks. Right. On that bombshell, let us move to final thoughts. EJ, as the American in the room, would you like to give your final thoughts on BlackKklansman?
Sure. All I can say is go and see it.
Agreed.
And for anyone in the States or outside it who is an American citizen, fucking register to vote and vote in November. Mm-hmm. Because this film will make you want to fucking do that.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing it, what the fuck?
Damn right. Get over your whole, I don't want to vote because I don't like what I want. Insert link to Dan Harmon's angry rant about fascism from the wake of Charlottesville, no less.
Yeah.
Here.
It's just not that hard to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not.
Yeah. Just.
They're trying to make it harder, but you can still fucking do it.
Yep. Sean.
So this is one of the films that falls into films with, I get sold on films just by like the premise of it. So the premise of the film is that I was just sold black police officer infiltrates the KKK and it's inspired by a true story. I was just like sold. I am on board.
Yep.
It was and it was a thing of like I went into this. I didn't do any research into the film at all, and that went in as blind as possible, and it's just so sort of amazing how impactful it is to anybody really. Like anybody can relate to this film in a very weird way because it is still such a pressing issue. Especially in the States, but also, here in the UK and all around the world. And it's one of the most important films that's come out in recent years, and it's just everybody should go see this.
Well said.
Yeah.
Shay?
I was thinking about the film, the James Baldwin documentary that came out a couple of years ago, I Am Not Your Negro.
Oh, yes.
And how, like, Samuel Jackson voices James Baldwin, like, narrates the film as kind of James Baldwin, and does it, like, says his words in such a tired way that he's so tired that this is still relevant, these words, and that's the thing, this film presents moments of triumph, like, there's little moments where everyone claps and it's like, yay, 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 but even though there's moments of triumph, racism doesn't go away.
Nope.
There's a really good podcast called Don't Ask Me with Justin Simeon I've started listening to, and he's speaking to Barry Jenkins. And one of the things that they said is like, black comes at you fast. So Dear White People is a show that's comedic, but then black comes at you fast. Do the Right Thing. It's kind of a comedic film, but then black. Well, like there's like during the film, and then the ending happens, and it happens fast.
Yeah.
That's the lived experience. Like, you live a life, but it can happen at any moment if you're a person of color in a marginalized community. And that's the ending of the film. Like you were saying earlier, Sean, like, there's this moment of triumph in the end, and then just a knock at the door, it comes at you fast.
Yeah.
And, this film came at me, and it was fucking great.
Excellent. For my final thoughts, I think I'm just going to quote a song title from Two Mellows' Memories of Tokyo album, which is a little mantra that I've actually found myself saying a lot recently. Tag walls, punch fascists.